Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase peace, the faster it slips away? You run after the next goal, the next plan, the next version of yourself, convinced that once you arrive, you'll finally breathe. Yet the more you reach, the further peace drifts, like a reflection on water that vanishes the moment you try to touch it. What if peace isn't hiding from you at all? What if it's simply waiting for you to stop running long enough to notice it's been beside you the whole time? We live in a world obsessed with progress, always sprinting toward the next achievement, the next dopamine rush, the next illusion of control. But what if this constant pursuit is the very thing stealing your calm? What if the life you're trying to chase can't be caught, because it was never meant to be hunted, only received? There's a quiet intelligence guiding everything, but it only whispers when your mind finally stops shouting. So pause, just for a moment. Feel the weight of your breath. Listen to the silence behind the noise. Maybe peace isn't something you earn through control. Maybe it's what returns when you finally let go of control. Because sometimes, the more you chase life, the further it hides. And the moment you stop running, it finds you. Lesson 1. Letting go is how you return to flow. You've spent so much of your life trying to make things happen, pushing, planning, forcing the river to move faster. But have you noticed? The harder you try to control everything, the heavier life begins to feel. You think you're steering, yet you're really just tiring yourself against the current. Life doesn't need more effort. It needs more ease. It doesn't respond to your grip. It opens to your trust. Imagine standing in a river with clenched fists, trying to stop the water from moving. You can't. The more you resist, the more the current pulls. But the moment you open your hands, the river carries you effortlessly. That's what letting go feels like. Not giving up, but remembering that flow never asks for your permission. It only waits for your surrender. Buddhist wisdom calls this acceptance, not weakness, but harmony with what already is. When the Buddha spoke of peace, he didn't mean a life without motion. He meant a heart that moves with motion. When you release the need to control every outcome, you create space for life to breathe through you. Clarity rises, not from forcing answers, but from allowing silence to reveal them. Ask yourself gently, what are you fighting that's already trying to teach you? The situation, the person, the plan you can't seem to fix. What if it isn't here to break you, but to remind you to float? Flow isn't found by pushing harder. It's remembered when resistance softens. So breathe. Loosen your hold. Let life meet you halfway. You'll realize the current was never your enemy. It was your guide home all along. Lesson 2. Peace lives only in the present moment. You don't lose your life somewhere far away. You lose it right here while staring past it. The mind keeps you busy rehearsing the past and predicting the future, but rarely allows you to arrive where your life is actually unfolding. You scroll, plan, regret, and hope. But all of that happens in thought, not in presence. And that's why peace feels distant. Not because it's missing, but because you're missing it. The Buddha called this sati, mindfulness, the art of remembering to return home to this moment. Every breath you take is a doorway. You can step through it and awaken, or stay trapped in the noise of what was and what might be. When you breathe with awareness, you reclaim the only place where joy, clarity, and love can exist. The now. Imagine holding sunlight in your hands. You can't, not by grasping, but by standing still and letting it warm you. That's how presence works. The harder you try to capture the perfect moment, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you stop chasing, you notice the light has been on you all along. So try this. As you listen, feel your next inhale without changing it. Notice its texture, its simplicity, its truth. That breath is life itself, asking nothing, promising everything. In that single inhale, there is no past. In that single exhale, there is no future. There is only this. Peace isn't found when your problems vanish. It's found when you finally arrive where your problems actually are. Because only in presence can you respond, heal, and see clearly. You don't need a better moment. You need to wake up to this one. Mindfulness does not escape. It's reunion. It's the art of being exactly where your life already is. Lesson 3. Observe the mind. Don't obey it. Have you ever noticed how loud your own mind can be? It comments on everything: the past, the future, what you said, what you didn't say, what could go wrong next. It builds storms out of whispers and then convinces you to stand in the rain. But here's the truth that can change everything. You are not the storm. You are the sky. Thoughts come and go, but the sky remains untouched. The mind loves noise. It thrives on fixing, predicting, replaying. But awareness, that deeper, quieter part of you, doesn't need to do anything. It simply sees. When you begin to witness your thoughts instead of wrestle them, something miraculous happens. The noise loses its grip. Like clouds drifting across a vast sky, the mind's chatter begins to fade on its own. You don't have to silence it. You only have to stop obeying it. Buddhist wisdom teaches that liberation starts in observation. The next time your mind says, "I can't do this," notice it without judgment. See it as a sound passing through space. You'll realize the problem isn't the thought itself. It's the belief that it's telling the truth. When you no longer believe every thought you think, you stop being dragged by them. You start standing beneath them, calm, aware, free. Imagine yourself as the open sky. Storms will come, they always do. But the sky never fears the storm. It simply lets it pass. You can do the same. When you rest in awareness, you remember that peace was never lost. It was just hidden beneath the noise. So today, don't fight your mind. Watch it. Smile at its chaos. Let the storm move through and you'll see. It always clears on its own. The sky doesn't chase silence. It is silence. Lesson 4. Pain softens when you stop resisting it. We spend our lives trying to escape pain, burying it under distractions, pretending we're fine, convincing ourselves that healing means never hurting again. But suffering doesn't come from pain itself. It comes from the war we wage against it. The harder you fight your wounds, the tighter they hold you. True peace begins when you stop demanding your pain to leave, and instead, allow it to speak. Buddhism calls this dukkha. The truth that to live is to experience discomfort, but to awaken is to meet it consciously. Pain is not your enemy, it's your messenger. It arrives to reveal where love is still missing, where patience still needs to grow, where self-compassion is still waiting to be learned. When you stop resisting, pain transforms from punishment into teacher. Imagine a flame. When you flinch and pull away, it burns. But when you move closer with calm awareness, you notice its warmth, its light, its quiet dance. Pain works the same way. When you stop fearing it, you see its meaning. Healing doesn't begin when the wound disappears. It begins when you finally stop running from it. You may be carrying heartbreak, failure, or silent exhaustion. You keep asking, when will this end? But what if the end comes not from time passing, but from presence arriving? The wound doesn't need you to fix it. It needs you to witness it, to breathe beside it, to whisper, "It's okay to hurt." When you hold your pain with tenderness instead of judgment, something softens inside. The walls fall. The ache eases. And in that softness, peace quietly returns. You were never meant to outrun pain, only to outgrow your resistance to it. So sit with it, breathe through it, and let it be your teacher. Because every time you stop fighting what hurts, you open the door to what heals. Lesson 5. Change is not loss. It's renewal. Change is one of life's most misunderstood teachers. We call it loss, we call it chaos, but rarely do we call it what it truly is: renewal. Everything that fades is quietly making room for what's waiting to grow. But when we cling to what's ending, we miss the beauty of what's trying to begin. Buddhism calls this anicca, impermanence, the understanding that all things rise and fall. Every season of your life has its own rhythm. Beginnings bloom, endings dissolve, and in between, transformation hums softly beneath the surface. It's not cruelty that life changes. It's mercy disguised as motion. Without change, nothing could heal, nothing could evolve, nothing could ever be born again. Think of autumn leaves falling. We often grieve their colours, but their falling is what nourishes the soil for spring. Life works the same way. The relationship that ended, the dream that collapsed, the version of you that no longer fits, they aren't evidence of failure. They're sacred transitions, clearing space for the next unfolding. But you can't receive what's coming while gripping what's gone. There was once a monk who the flower does not mourn the falling petal because it knows it will bloom again. What if you could see your own life this way? What if every ending was a disguised beginning, one that required letting go before it could arrive? So when change comes, and it always will, don't resist it. Breathe into it. Trust it. The tide that takes something from your shore is the same tide that will return something new. Everything you lose returns in a different form when you're ready to see it. Nothing truly ends, it only transforms. When you stop calling it loss, you begin to recognize it as life's quiet way of saying, you're ready for renewal. Lesson 6. Stillness reveals. What noise hides? We've been taught that answers come from effort, that if we keep thinking, analyzing, and solving, we'll eventually find peace. But the mind's noise has a strange trick. It convinces you that peace is somewhere else, waiting to be discovered after one more plan, one more fix, one more breakthrough. And so, you keep searching, never realizing that the search itself is what keeps you from finding. Silence isn't empty. It's full of everything you've been trying to hear. Yet most people fear silence because in silence, the mind starts shouting. It brings up what you've avoided. Memories, doubts, loneliness. But if you stay long enough, if you breathe through the discomfort instead of running from it, something incredible happens. The noise begins to slow. The thoughts still come, but they lose their authority. Beneath them, you begin to sense a quiet awareness that was never disturbed, only overlooked. Buddhism teaches that stillness is not the absence of motion. It's the presence of awareness. Like a lake reflecting the sky, your mind becomes clear only when it stops rippling with worry. The reflection was always there. The sky never left. But you couldn't see it through the waves of your own restlessness. When the lake is still, it reflects the sky. And when your mind is still, it reflects truth. There's a story of a young student who asked a monk, How will I ever find peace? The monk smiled and poured him a cup of tea until it overflowed. Why did you do that? The student exclaimed. The monk said softly, Your mind is like this cup, too full to receive anything new. Empty it and peace will pour in. You see, stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about undoing everything that isn't necessary. It's about remembering that clarity doesn't come from more noise. It comes from less interference. In that simplicity, awareness expands. And the more aware you become, the more you realize you were never searching for peace. Peace was searching for you. Try this. Sit for 5 minutes today, without music, without distraction, without goals. Just breathe. Notice how the mind wants to run, how it fidgets for stimulation. Don't fight it. Watch it like clouds drifting through your sky. In time, you'll feel something subtle. A warmth, a softening, a quiet joy that needs no reason. That's stillness. That's the truth of who you are beneath the noise. The modern world glorifies movement, always achieving, always reaching. But in the spiritual world, stillness is mastery. It's where the mind ends and awareness begins. It's where the search stops and discovery happens. So, when the noise inside you grows loud, don't shout over it. Become the silence that listens. Because when the lake of your mind is still, it reflects everything. Peace, truth, and the vastness of who you really are. Lesson 7. Act fully. Release completely. We've all been taught to give our best, to try harder, push further, chase the outcome until it bends to our will. But somewhere along that chase, effort turns into anxiety. The dream you once loved becomes a source of stress, not joy. Why? Because when effort is tied to outcome, even success begins to feel like a test. There's a deeper way to live and work, one that ancient teachings from both Buddhism and Karma Yoga understood long before the world started measuring worth through results. It's this: do everything with devotion, then let life decide the outcome. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it's revolutionary when practiced. When you pour your heart into something, a project, a relationship, a dream, and then release your grip on how it must turn out, you discover a peace that no achievement can buy. Attachment to results turns effort into exhaustion. Devotion turns effort into meditation. Think of the archer aiming at a distant target. The arrow will only fly true when his hand is steady and his mind quiet. But if he fears missing, his arm trembles. The moment he obsesses over the result, he loses connection with the act itself. The wise archer knows his only responsibility is the aim, not the wind. The wind belongs to life. In the same way, every action you take carries two forces, your intention and the universe's response. Your part ends where intention ends. After that, it's life's turn. But most of us blur that line. We try to control both, the aim and the wind, and that's why we suffer. When you act from sincerity instead of fear, you don't lose. Even if the outcome shifts, your integrity remains untouched. The joy is in the doing. You bake the bread, not to control who tastes it, but because kneading the dough feels like prayer. You write the book, not for applause, but because each sentence makes you feel more alive. You love not to be chosen, but because love itself expands you. Buddhism calls this detachment, not indifference, but inner freedom. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care so deeply that you refuse to corrupt your peace for control. You still dream, plan, build, but you do it without the tightness of what if. The action becomes its own reward. Ask yourself, how many times have you done something beautiful only to lose the joy in the waiting? Waiting for validation, for recognition, for proof that it mattered. The waiting steals what the moment already gave. Every time you attach to an outcome, you make your happiness conditional on something you can't command. But when you act for the love of acting, you win twice. In the moment of effort, and in the peace that follows. There's a story of a craftsman who carved intricate statues for a temple. One day, a visitor asked why he spent weeks perfecting the back of each sculpture, the side no one would ever see. The craftsman smiled, because I will see it, and the gods I believe in will see it. That's devotion, not performance. You do the work for the sake of beauty itself, not for the applause it earns. Karma yoga meets Buddhist wisdom at this very point. Action without attachment, purpose without possession. You plant the seed, but you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You trust the soil. You trust the seasons. That trust is spiritual maturity. The faith that what's yours will find you when the time is right. So, as you walk through your day, give fully, work deeply, love honestly. Pour your attention like water, but don't chain your peace to the outcome. Because the truth is, you never control the wind, only your aim. And when your aim is pure, the wind becomes your ally. Act fully, release completely. That is mastery, the quiet confidence of those who understand that letting go is not losing. It's trusting life enough to let it finish the sentence you began. Lesson 8. You were never broken, only covered. Most of us spend our lives trying to fix ourselves. We chase improvement as if wholeness were a prize waiting at the end of relentless effort. We keep saying, once I'm healed, once I'm successful, once I'm loved, then I'll finally be enough. But what if you were never broken in the first place? What if there was nothing to fix, only something to remember? From the moment we are born, the world begins to teach us that we must earn our worth. We are told to become something, smarter, prettier, more productive, more perfect. And in that endless striving, we begin to believe a dangerous story, that who we are is somehow not enough. Slowly, we start to build a mask, a collection of achievements, roles, and identities we hope will finally make us lovable. But the more layers we add, the further we drift from our true self. We forget that beneath all the proving, there is a quiet essence that has never needed approval to exist. Buddhism reminds us that enlightenment is not about becoming something new. It's about uncovering what has always been there. Imagine a mirror covered in dust. You can't see your reflection, so you think it's gone. But the reflection was never lost, only hidden. You don't need to polish harder or paint over the dust. You simply need to wipe it away. In the same way, peace is not created. It's revealed. Your worth was never damaged, only buried beneath noise, fear, and comparison. There's a famous story of a golden Buddha statue in Thailand. Centuries ago, when invaders threatened the temple, the monks covered the statue in clay to disguise it from being stolen. Over time, everyone forgot what lay beneath. The statue stood for generations, plain and unremarkable, until one day, a crack appeared. Beneath the surface, something glimmered. When the clay was finally chipped away, the monks discovered what had been there all along. A statue made of pure gold. The treasure wasn't found, it was remembered. That's what awakening feels like. You don't become golden, you realize you always were. Life doesn't ask you to improve your essence. It asks you to remove what covers it. The self you're trying to perfect, the one chasing validation, comparing, fearing judgment, is only the clay. Beneath it lives the radiant awareness that never breaks, never fades, never needs permission to shine. Think about how often you say to yourself, "I'll be happy when." That phrase is the biggest lie your mind tells you. Happiness isn't waiting at the end of achievement. It's hidden beneath the layers of striving. You are not broken. You're just buried under everything the world told you to become. When you stop adding, you start uncovering. There's a reason the lotus is sacred in Buddhism. It grows in mud, thick, messy, dark mud. Yet it doesn't apologize for it. The mud doesn't stain the flower. It nourishes it. Your challenges, your heartbreaks, your failures, they aren't proof of damage. They are the soil that helped you bloom. As the teaching says, a lotus never apologizes for growing through mud. So why do you? When you finally stop running from your past and start embracing it as part of your path, something beautiful happens. Compassion replaces shame. You begin to see that every painful chapter was a piece of your unfolding, not evidence of imperfection, but proof of your depth. The cracks you hide are the places where the light enters. The dust you despise is what makes the mirror meaningful. So instead of asking, "How can I fix myself?" ask, "What parts of me have I forgotten to love?" Beneath the noise of self-improvement lies something ancient and untouched. The awareness that watches your life unfold without judgment. You don't have to create that awareness. You just have to return to it. Sit quietly for a moment. Feel your breath. Notice how your thoughts rise and fall like waves. None of them stay, and yet something inside you is constant. That stillness watching everything come and go. That's you. It has never been broken, and it never will be. Healing, then, is not about repairing the self. It's about remembering the self that never needed repair. Beneath all your trying, beneath all your masks, there is a soft, steady truth waiting to be seen. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole. And wholeness was never something to find. It was something to return to. So stop fixing. Start uncovering. You don't need to earn peace. You only need to allow it. Just like the golden Buddha beneath the clay, your light has always been there, quietly waiting for you to remember. Lesson 9. Identity is the mask. Awareness is the face. You spend your whole life wearing a name. It's printed on your documents, spoken by others, and whispered inside your thoughts. Over time, that name begins to feel like you. You build an entire world around it. Your career, your relationships, your memories, your wounds. But have you ever stopped to wonder, who were you before the story began? From the moment we learn language, we also learn identity. We say, "I am this, I am not that, I like this, I hate that." And slowly, the infinite becomes limited. You become the student, the worker, the dreamer, the victim, the achiever. These labels feel comforting because they give you a sense of control, a shape in the chaos of existence. But every label is also a boundary, and every boundary hides a deeper truth. The more you cling to who you think you are, the less you experience what you truly are. Buddhism calls this illusion anatta, the understanding that there is no permanent, unchanging self. The me you defend so fiercely is not a solid structure. It's a stream of thoughts, habits, memories, and roles flowing through time. And just as a wave is never separate from the ocean, you are never separate from awareness itself. You are not the story you tell yourself. You are the awareness that hears the story. Imagine standing before a mirror fogged with breath. You see only the condensation, not the reflection. That fog is your identity, your thoughts, opinions, and past experiences. But when you stop trying to define or defend the image, the mirror clears. What's revealed isn't something new. It's the clarity that was always there. Awareness doesn't need a name. It simply is. There's a story of a monk who once said, "When I was young, I wanted to become someone, wise, respected, awakened. Now that I'm older, I just want to be no one. And in being no one, I finally see everything." The paradox is beautiful. The moment you stop trying to be something, you meet the vastness of being itself. You might think, but if I'm not my identity, who am I? That question can feel terrifying, but only to the mind that believes it must always be something. When you let go of the need to define yourself, you don't disappear. You expand. You discover a freedom that cannot be labeled because it's not bound to any role or name. Think about how exhausting it is to constantly perform, to be the responsible one, the strong one, the quiet one, the funny one. Each mask protects you, but it also confines you. You become addicted to the image you've built, afraid to let it fall apart. Yet, true peace begins when you stop defending that image. When you stop needing to prove your identity, life finally has space to show you who you are beyond it. The Buddha compared this realization to removing a mask you didn't know you were wearing. At first, the air feels strange against your skin, raw, exposed. But then, there's relief. You can finally breathe. The self is a passing costume, not the actor. You can change the costume, enjoy it, play your part, but never forget you're the consciousness wearing it. In your daily life, notice how often you begin sentences with "I am." I am tired, I am lost, I am not good enough. Every time you say those words, you merge awareness with the story. But when you observe instead, there is tiredness, there is doubt, there is fear. You create space between the watcher and what is watched. That space is freedom. That space is who you really are. Anatta doesn't ask you to erase your personality or stop living your human life. It simply invites you to see it as a play, beautiful, fleeting, and sacred. You can still enjoy the roles: parent, partner, creator, dreamer. Just don't mistake the costume for the consciousness. When the play ends, you return to what's always been there: awareness, timeless and silent. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine every label you wear falling away. Your name, your age, your job, your story, your fears. What remains? Notice that something still exists, alert, still, unshaken. That presence is not a role you play. It's the essence of life itself. The same awareness behind your eyes looks through everyone's eyes. That's why, in the deepest sense, we are never separate. We are waves of one ocean, ripples of one consciousness. The world will keep calling you by your names. You'll still need to live, plan, and participate. But deep down, you'll know. You are not the character. You are the light playing through it. The identity can change, but the awareness watching never does. So stop clinging to who you think you are and start noticing who you've always been. The masks will fall, the stories will fade. What remains is not emptiness, but infinite presence. Quiet, radiant, alive. You don't have to become anything. You only have to remember you were never the mask. You were always the face beneath it, the face of awareness itself. Lesson 10. Simplicity is the highest wealth. We live in a world that keeps telling us to want more. More success, more money, more recognition. But the strange thing is, the more we gather, the emptier we often feel. We fill our homes with things, our calendars with plans, our minds with noise. And yet something inside us still whispers, is this all there is? The truth is, the more we demand from life, the less we actually see of it. The Buddha taught that abundance isn't about adding, it's about needing less. When the bowl is empty, the universe fills it. But when it's already overflowing with cravings and clutter, nothing new can enter. Look around you. Almost everything in nature lives by simplicity. The tree doesn't demand a different sky. The ocean doesn't beg the moon to rise faster. The flower doesn't wish for a better season to bloom. They all live in quiet harmony with what is. But we, the most intelligent beings on the planet, forget the art of enough. We mistake possession for peace. We confuse having with being. There's an ancient story about a wise monk who visited a wealthy merchant. The merchant was proud of his mansion filled with gold and jewels. "Master," he said, "you must see how blessed I am." The monk looked around silently, then smiled and asked, "Tell me, who truly owns all this, you or your desires?" The merchant paused. In that moment, he realized he wasn't the owner at all. He was the servant. When you crave endlessly, you chain your happiness to things that can change, break, or vanish. But when you simplify, you begin to see that joy doesn't come from what you hold. It comes from what you release. The less you need, the more peace you have. The lighter your hands, the freer your heart. Simplicity is not about living with nothing. It's about realizing that nothing is missing. When you no longer measure your worth by what you own or how others see you, a strange thing happens. Gratitude awakens. The breath feels richer. The sky looks wider. A simple cup of tea becomes enough. You begin to live with the kind of wealth that can't be stolen or spent. Contentment. Think about it. Most stress in modern life comes from wanting something to be different. We want time to move faster, people to behave differently, our lives to align perfectly with our plans. But life isn't a machine to control, it's a rhythm to dance with. The more you try to own it, the more it slips through your fingers. The moment you stop grasping, it begins to give. Buddhism calls this santosha, contentment born from presence. It's not the joy of getting what you want. It's the peace of realizing you already have what matters. You can still pursue dreams, but you no longer mistake them for destiny. You can still enjoy comfort, but you no longer become enslaved by it. Imagine your life as a bowl. Each day, you fill it with thoughts, plans, worries, expectations. And then you wonder why there's no room for peace. But when the bowl is empty, when you stop cramming it with should and some days, the universe finally has space to fill it with what you actually need. Clarity, calm, and quiet joy. The minimalist isn't the one who owns the least, but the one who needs the least. You can live in a mansion and still be poor if your heart is restless. And you can live in simplicity and still feel infinite if your heart is light. True wealth is not measured in possessions, it's measured in peace. Ask yourself gently, how many of your desires are actually distractions? How much energy do you spend maintaining things that don't feed your soul? What would happen if, just for a day, you stopped wanting more and started loving what already is? There's a kind of abundance that only reveals itself in emptiness. When you stop chasing every craving, when you breathe in gratitude instead of greed, when you find joy not in getting, but in being, that's when you realize that simplicity isn't deprivation, it's liberation. A quiet heart owns everything because it has stopped trying to own anything. It doesn't fear loss because it doesn't depend on possession. It doesn't chase love because it already feels whole. In that stillness, Every ordinary moment glows. Every sip of water, every breath of air, every sunrise feels like a gift. You don't need a bigger life. You need a clearer one. You don't need more things. You need fewer barriers between you and the beauty that's already here. Simplicity is not a step back from life. It's a step deeper into it. So breathe. Let go of the extra weight, the endless wanting, the restless striving. Empty the bowl. The universe has been waiting to fill it with peace all along. Because when you finally stop asking life for more, you realize you already have everything. Closing reflection. The current knows the way. You were never meant to chase life, only to meet it. What you seek isn't running away. It's waiting for you to stop running. All along, life has been whispering, not through noise, but through quiet invitations, through still mornings, through deep breaths, through the moments that ask for nothing from you but presence. So breathe. Soften your grip. You don't have to force the river to flow. The current already knows where it's going. The more you try to control it, the more you tire yourself. But the moment you let go, the river begins to carry you, not away from your path, but toward it. Every lesson you've walked through, surrender, presence, awareness, stillness, simplicity, has been leading you here, to the understanding that life was never about becoming something new. It was always about remembering who you already are. Beneath all the noise, you've always been whole. Beneath all the movement, you've always been home. The peace you've been seeking is not a destination. It's a return to the part of you that never left. The quiet space between thoughts, the still lake beneath the storm, the awareness watching everything rise and fall, untouched, unbroken, eternal. So wherever you are right now, close your eyes. Feel your breath enter and leave. Notice how, even as everything changes, something inside you remains constant. That stillness is not separate from life. It is life. You don't have to chase meaning anymore. You don't have to prove, earn, or arrive. You already are what you were searching for. Let the current carry you. It has known the way all along. If this reflection helped you breathe a little softer, share it quietly with someone who's still learning to stop running. You never know. Your calm might become the light they were looking for. And if you'd like to keep walking this path of peace, awareness, and awakening, stay with us. Each week, we return to the same truth. You don't have to chase life. You only have to remember how to meet it.